Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, happy spring. I am going to give you a dose of positivity, energy, and patriotism that will take you into spring with a fury and a fire. I am so happy, privileged, excited to be joining us on the podcast. Finally, the great and powerful Rudy Reyes joins us on Independent Americans. Welcome, my friend.
My brother, thank you so much, man. What an incredible introduction. And that passion, that fire, since we first met, brother, it's still freaking burning. It's still burning. And I love the title of your show, brother. So thank you so much to have me on.
Well, dude, we've known each other almost 20 years now.
Yeah, brother.
It's a long road. And I love something you say all the time, that positivity is contagious and energy is contagious. Yes. And just being around you, man, I'm already feeling that. And I know
Thanks,
anybody
brother.
listening and watching is feeling that. And it's always good to see you, man.
Thank you, brother. You know, life is a garden, brother. Dig it. Dig it. You know, it's been fantastic. I've been watching and been a part of IAVA in the early days. I've seen what you've moved forward, making better policy as it concerns veterans. And really, veterans, we're Americans. We're Americans. And your show is about Americans. And we come from all backgrounds. We have different colors. We have different religions. But we believe in the red, white, and blue, brother, because there's no better country in the world that supports personal and individual self-determination to bring your dreams to life. And I see that more and more as I'm getting older. I'm sure you reflect back as well. Our country is, sometimes it's hard to recognize. When we were wearing the uniform and fighting, we were so much more together. However, still, brother, there's an American exceptionalism with the young generation coming up, if we can keep giving them guidance and inspiring them. And that's what we're doing.
Well, that's what you do every day. I try to talk to important, inspiring, and iconic Americans. You are all of those things.
Thank
but
you,
let me also ground us in a question I ask of everybody, Rudy. Where are you and how are you?
All right. I'm in South Carolina. I'm in Lexington, and it's country. And I live in the country to kind of give me a buffer space between New York, LA, and Miami, London, because I'm working in the entertainment business now. And I've got a couple of shows, got another one coming out on History Channel soon as well. So I'm working a lot in the media, and a lot of my heart, my soul, and my image is out there for the world. So when I come home to my lovely soon-to-be wife, Jade Struck, my big German Shepherd that I play with all day long, and he still never gets tired, and my two cats. So this is my fortress of solitude. Still good old country, folks. I'm looking out the window right here. I see 3 American flags. I love it, brother. So I am here at home, and I'm home in my heart as well. We talked couple of days ago, preparing for this. And I said, yeah, brother, it's so good to be home. And at least you and I and men and women like us that were coming off the battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq, Pakistan, those of us that had the wherewithal to keep moving forward, we didn't know where exactly the path would take us, but we kept moving forward. And that journey is a little bit longer than we expected, but that journey was worth it because we are back home.
And I'm honored and excited to be on that journey with you.
Thanks, brother.
I want to talk about a lot in this conversation. I want to talk about Iraq 20 years later and Generation Kill 20 years later. I want to talk about the show you did on Fox, World's Toughest Test. I want to talk about generally the state of America and your work at Force Blue. I want to talk about this love of your life, Jade Struck. You two are like living superheroes. But why I wanted to get you on right now is because of the breaking news out of Nashville, right?
Yes.
And I've been meaning to get you on the show for a long time, but I felt like this was the right time for a number of reasons, but especially because we see these school shootings and everybody is horrified by them. Everyone is outraged by them. But those of us in the military community see them differently. We understand what's happening differently. And I wanted to think about who in my community, who in my friend group I could talk to help people understand the tactical elements, the things that professionals see. And you have such exceptional experience across Force Recon, a trainer, operator around the world. This is your area of expertise. So most folks have seen the footage. If you haven't, there's body cam footage now from two cops who enter the building. 9 folks are dead, 3 kids. But these heroes, in my view, stepped up to the plate and responded in a way we really haven't seen before, and we haven't seen that intimately from police with this kind of footage. But I wanted to get your view, Rudy. I'm just going to give you the ball and ask you, if you do an after-action review, what do you see unfolding there in Nashville?
Well, the first thing I noticed when looking at the footage is the parallel of police action to combat footage. This was a combat op and was approached with the aggression and the decisiveness of combat. And why that's so important, and to my civilian brothers and sisters out there, my citizen brothers and sisters, why that's so important, and please don't be scared of this topic. Why in our combat arms in the military and in our special operations communities, aggression and assertiveness is so important is because it saves lives. We are not bullies. We understand by taking charge and dominating battle space and moving as hard and as fast and in a coordinated fashion to the gunfire, we can then neutralize that threat. And every second counts. Lives are on the line. I was very, very impressed with these men, this ad hoc HRT, hostage rescue team / direct action team. It was ad hoc. Also very, very impressive. I had a feeling, and I just had it confirmed by Ronnie Atkins from Funker, that there were military men involved. The ad hoc ground force commander, the policeman that you hear saying, I need three at the door, and breaching and moving his men through and saying, clear, all right, let's go, and driving the train. They get to the stairwell. He holds the long axis on the hallway. We don't know if the shooter has doubled back and is now downstairs and could engage those police as they're moving up the stairs. And after his 3 gunmen go up, he falls in a trace and he's pushing his men. You see him going down that hallway. And this got me choked up. Jade and I were watching this. This got us choked up. These little baby backpacks hanging on the side of this school. And I got goosebumps right now thinking about it. These men, these policemen, these heroes, they pushed themselves, and you could hear the gunfire going off. It was an assault weapon. The shooter had a assault rifle style assault pistol and a handgun. There was some serious firepower and serious danger. So what? That is pushed to the side. Let's get into the fight. And I was incredibly impressed with the communication, the aggression, the assertiveness. Really, really amazing. It seemed, it reminded me of the verbiage used in SOTG when I was doing my first close quarter combat training. Simple, direct commands, and you must keep initiative. You know that as well as I do. Initiative-based, brother. When you lose the initiative, then you lose everything. They took the initiative, and from 15 minutes from the call, they got their squad cars there. And 2 minutes after the breach into the school itself, they had located, closed with, and destroyed the threat by fire maneuver. And I was very proud of them and very impressed. And if without that decisive action, there would have been so many more children killed. Look at the compare and contrast to Uvalde. Yep. They had 100 officers plus, and they were stuck in fear, and they were paralyzed by fear. It just goes to show you, and I knew it when I heard the man calling it out. That was a Marine with 9 years service and combat service. That Marine took charge. Imagine more veterans in our police and our first responder forces. More veterans. Somehow we got to make a program so that all schools have an indigenous police force for them. And now this may sound like military state. So what? This is the state of the union that we're at now. Let's instead of holding on to old doctrines and old ways of thinking and things that don't serve us anymore. I sound like my therapist with me with my bad relationships, right? I sound like that. Well, let's get rid of these bad relationships and let's carve new relationships. Never has this country been more, never has this country had so much wealth. Never has this country had so much opportunity for anyone to improve themselves. Never have we had such a better time to be alive in the world. Yet, because we are struggling as a society and as a nation, we are struggling with our soul. What is missing is soul. The military is having a very hard time meeting their quotas for recruitment. Church and God and family units are falling apart. In this modern world, people are so obsessed with these things that their identity is wrapped up in a manicured image that they make of themselves, and they're stuck in some kind of adolescent narcissism. And they could be 50 years old and they're still acting like 13-year-olds. We need to come back to what made this country so special, and how somehow in World War II, brother, fighting in Europe, and then my illustrious Marine Corps out there in the Pacific, it was freaking do or die, brother. And we made it. And we made it. And then we came back, and then we built the most amazing industrialized nation that this world has ever seen. And then we worked out our struggles and our injustices and indifferences of different races in our Black community. And by the way, I'm Mexican American. I'm Latino. I work the fields. My family came from South Texas, and my family's from Mexico. I am first generation. My father's a Mexican citizen, Marine Corps, fought in Vietnam. And although I'm kind of fair-skinned, there's been many people to build this country: the Chinese, the Blacks, the Latinos, the Europeans that came over here, like Charles Bronson, Lithuanian, who wore a dress till he was 8 years old because there was 11 freaking kids and they worked in the coal mines. And then he went to fight in World War II, 3 Purple Hearts, bubble gunner. So there's plenty of, if we want to talk about pain and struggle it took to be an American and make this beautiful country, we all got some of that. Why are we focusing on all of these so-called injustices to a society right now that's never had it better? They need to freaking get spiritual with it and start making actions to bring their lives to life, not pointing fingers. I want to say this is young people, and I don't care how old they are. They could be 50 years old and still young, because they're stuck in the Messiah complex where they think they are the savior, and it is their job to react, or what is the word, the activism. Get out of here, man. You need to freaking act more in here. First of all, if you don't know how to run and swim and do martial art, then you don't even know who you or your body is. You don't even know what you've been graced with God to have right here. If you don't know how to write poems and sketch, how about we start there?
Can I pause you there, Rudy? Because this is like, thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
This is, for those of you that don't know Rudy, there was the full Rudy, right? Like, he touches on so many things that are important, that are happening around us, and speaks to me, and I think this country and people of all kinds, in a very powerful way. And there's a lot in that I want to pull apart.
Go ahead.
I want to bring it back to that scene in Nashville with these cops, because I think what you talked about, soul, right? We saw soul, we saw leadership, and then we saw tempo, right? They were controlling the tempo, so the enemy couldn't control the tempo. Then we saw training. Like really good training where you could have different guys who hadn't worked together. They fold into a unit, a leader takes control and moves them off of their training. And then you saw courage, right? Absolutely. And I think that's what so many people are responding to, is when you see the full body cam footage, when the guy's walking in and he pulls his rifle out of the trunk and he says, "Yes, ma'am," and he starts moving.
Yes.
All of that shows you what kind of person he was, and the way he knew the moment was there. He knew he might die. He knew he was still going forward, down to moving through the backpacks, which is something that, makes me shiver because I've got a 7-year-old and a
Yes.
4-year-old that, are right now in buildings that look just like that a couple
That's
blocks
right.
away from me, right? So we
That's right.
hope that people will respond with that kind of courage and training in the moment.
Yes.
And they did, right? So I was
They
explaining it to
sure
my
did,
wife.
brother.
I was
There
explaining
was,
it to my wife because I do think the country needs to understand that we could hear that was a long rifle, right? That was
yeah.
an AR or was an AK, right? And you
Yep.
could hear the difference between the pistols and the other moments. But these guys had no helmets. They
No.
had, some of them didn't even have body armor. They stepped
Nope.
into an open area and engaged a target. They didn't know how many there were or what they were holding, and they stood out in front and took the shots, right?
Yes, brother.
Assuming they would probably take shots back at them. So I
Of
just want to
course.
ask you to, like, you've been
You,
there, you've been that
yes.
guy, you've lost people in moments like that.
Yes. Yes, we
And
have.
can you just maybe talk about what all of that
I can
means?
tell you what's going through your mind.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind. Um, Sense of individual self is put to the side to an overarching duty.
Yeah.
And this is that spiritual element and that we are all one element. Children's lives are on the line. Children are killed, and this must stop with me. And the only way is that my personal safety must be put to the side. And as the Marine Corps, we say, we don't ask what or why, we only do or die. And those men pushed and pushed and pushed. And you could also see the combat stress, the noise is going off. And I mean, it's right out of combat, brother. I mean, it was a combat operation. Therefore, these men were under combat stress. That did not deter them. What did they do? They expanded their consciousness as much as they can, had clear communication, and kept pushing themselves and driving forward, driving forward. Yeah, we talked about the 20-year anniversary of Generation Kill. 20 years. I have my reunion coming up for the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And after Nasiriyah, we went through this little side town called Muafakia, and we were engaged on both sides, and we barely made it out with our life. We chopped our way through this village, dropping down buildings, freaking close quarter combat. We blast through this T intersection, and the vehicles that were in front of me hit the Sabka and started sinking. Now the enemy is shooting over our heads because we're in defilade, but they're maneuvering to us. My job as an assistant team leader is security. So I grabbed two of my men, Brunmeyer and Chafin, and I run to the berm to engage those men across the street. As I'm running, and the rounds are snapping, and it's bedlam. There's fire, and there's amazing heavy guns going in and out. As I'm getting closer to the berm, I'm now weasel walking a little lower, and we're running, and now we're getting to the berm, and now I'm crawling. And as we crest that berm crawling, I'm watching the enemy right across the street at this gas station right here, shooting into us. And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm thinking, goodbye, family. Goodbye. Love you. Boom. I'm here. And right before we engage, I say to Chafin, make sure nobody freaking flanks us. Watch our 3 o'clock. Go. And we engage. And there's a moment of where my life, our lives are secondary to the greater good, which is all of us. We are fighting to protect all of us. And that's what these police officers did in such a beautiful and humanistic way. An incredible example of human love and courage in which an individual is put to the side. And what we're doing is fighting and protecting the collective. It was absolutely beautiful.
I'm so grateful for the way you talk about things and the expression of love. And you and I have talked about this for decades, publicly,
Yes.
with each other, with others. My friend Todd Bowers, who used to always say, everybody asks me, how many people I killed. They never ask me how many I saved.
That's right. Bro.
Right. And there's an expression of love that you see in that when you really think about it, especially, I was explaining to my wife, when they don't know what to do, they keep moving to the sound of the guns.
Yes.
Right. And that's what civilians may not understand, is that these guys just kept moving to that sound. Right. And to the point where he was actually pushing them in the back. And I want to ask you, Rudy, because you train so many people, you talk to so many different audiences. Folks do want to know this. You're a father,
Yes.
you train so many kids. For people who are saying, what do I do in a situation like that? If I'm a
Yes.
student, I'm a teacher, I'm a janitor, I'm not a cop, I don't have a weapon. What do I do? How do you advise people as an expert on all of this in those moments?
You will see first, okay, first and foremost, I know this is not a surface driven concept. This is a purpose driven concept. All you moms and dads and teachers and janitors out there, make sure you're on that stair stepper. Make sure you're getting your steps in. Make sure you're doing your combat yoga and your body weight exercise. Your physical fitness first, because with physical fitness, you can bring your heart rate down and you can grab kids or people who are wounded and move them out of there. You must get off the X. You must get off that X. If you are not armed, you must get off the X. And so that being said, when you work at the school and you're in a position of leadership, because every adult at school is in a position of leadership, take time for rehearsals of how you're going to move out of these places when you're in these certain areas of the school, and just role play a little bit and stay fit, stay calm, and get off the X and get as many kids as you can with you off of that X.
And when you say X, you mean the spot, right?
At the spot, yeah, the kill zone.
Kill zone.
Get off the X. Also, everyone could definitely improve themselves by getting their CPR and first responders training. I put a Marine that had a through and through bullet wound right underneath his body armor and his belly, and I was the first one to get on him. And with my great training, I was almost on autopilot. I don't even really remember consciously. Well, I'll say this: I'm a very empathetic person, and I love animals, and I don't like suffering, and emotional parts of movies, I always start freaking crying. But because of my training, so much practice, when I got on that Marine, I just went right into my mental checklist. Hey, buddy, I just did everything I did in class. Hey, buddy, everything's going to be okay, buddy.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to roll you over, buddy. I look for his exit wound. And then boom, my medic's there. All right, give me occlusive bandages. I need some Curlex. I stuff in the Curlex, slap on an occlusive action. It's okay, buddy. I roll him back over, put another one, freaking pressure bandage, proper square knots with freaking, securing overhands. And I would find out months later that when they got him to Germany, the surgeons were like, wow, what medic did this? You know what I mean? And then somebody said, a jarhead. They said, no way. So get your training, get your medical training, stay fit, and know that in this modern world, for some reason, emotional and spiritual injuries and sicknesses is infecting people to think it's okay to go to schools and to hurt children. Mm-hmm. So all of us need to take charge and be individual battlefield commanders of our lives. That's my advice.
There's so much good in that, man. And I said to my son at times, like, don't be scared, be prepared. And there's more you can do to prepare yourself for that moment. And even just the focus on first aid, CPR, basic life saving, that's important. And most folks don't have it. And they don't realize that you may not be the one who tackles the gunman, but you may be the one who can put a tourniquet on or do CPR, save somebody's life, right?
That's right. That
focus is really important. And I also have to thank you because, some of my friends who are Medal of Honor recipients, and I think Paul Buca used to remind me that every time a Medal of Honor recipient or any veteran or anybody who's been through trauma shares a story, it hurts. Mm-hmm. And you have been so courageous and so consistent for decades now, sharing your story. And that takes courage. And I know it makes you endure some pain. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank
and
you,
also,
brother.
Building on that, ask you, you are one of the most famous people to come out of Iraq, right? At this point now, you're known around the world. 20 years ago, you played yourself in Generation Kill, the brilliant miniseries, the great book by our friend Nate Fick, that really will define, I think, that experience for generations to come. It's 20 years later since our war started, man, one of our wars, or a part of our war, however we frame it. 20 years later, what are your reflections? What do you want people to know, especially young people that maybe don't remember it and maybe weren't even alive?
I know. So, I was on the ship, brother, with Nate Fick, he was the grunt commander, and I had my recon platoon when the towers were hit. So we went in to take Kandahar back in 2001, and the perspective, it's so interesting in our hearts. Parts of us remember it like yesterday. I remember it like yesterday. And it's hard to believe it's been over 20 years since the global war on terror and 20 years since the invasion. There was some time, Paul, about 10 years ago, I was contracting by then, doing some counterterror work in Africa. And I was in that nebulous contracting world. And we had some very amorphous and cloudy foreign policy when it came to Iraq and Afghanistan. Shortly after that, ISIS took over Iraq. And I fell into a very dark place, brother, because of all the blood and all the love that my men and I gave to our Iraqi people. Some of these people, absolutely wonderful. All my Kurdish brothers that fought alongside of me from northern Iraq, and the ambition to give these people more than they've had before, to have a chance at having paved roads and their kids going to school. Kids going to school without their lungs getting infected from all the dirt and dust. And when that was taken away and our foreign policy did not back up our heart policy, which is to make these Middle Eastern people, give them a chance at something really special for themselves. I felt that maybe my service, and I felt that maybe my mental and emotional scars and physical scars were worthless. One of my dearest friends, Eddie, lost both his arms with me out there. I lost my idol, First Sergeant Smith, out there. And we have my recon brother, Dave Caruso, out there. So many. And I got in a very sad place. Like, what do we do it all for? We gave it all. I still can't sleep at night. I still am depressed when I wake up. And I developed an alcohol and a drug problem. It was really, really hard, brother. Actually, I didn't even care. I was a dead man walking for a while. I felt like my life meant nothing, because what was all this sacrifice for? And now, years later, after creating Force Blue to bring my men together, doing ocean conservation, all of us SOCOM combat divers, to do something with our skills, I realized, wait a second, we're special. We're special people. We're special just to freaking take the oath and sign a contract. There's something special about us. I had to be reminded of that. I had to remind myself. And then by having the rest of us around each other and doing something with our skills, we remind one another, and it started to grow. It started to become quantum. I look back now and I see what a beautifully ambitious thing it was for young men to go out there with the rifle and in the gun truck, soccer balls too, and move out into villages as a strong point and a mobile fob, and also treat the locals with our medicine and help them with their water pumps. And from me doing direct action and surreptitious insert sniper missions to then moving into protecting villages for elections. Mm-hmm. It was incredibly ambitious. We didn't have the follow through with our country, but it takes nothing away from the love and the ambition and the hope that we had for Afghanistan and Iraq. It takes nothing away from that. That's what I think of now.
I've been so looking forward to hearing your thoughts and to hear that, because there's so much in there that we can unpack and digest. And I hope folks replay that response a couple of times. I mean, the imagery of the gun trucks with the soccer balls.
Yeah.
Right. And the heart policy and the political foreign policy, like that's it, man. Like, you're nailing it. Right. And all of us that rode through it. And candidly, man, I remember seeing you around that hard time. And, I remember, we've seen each other a lot at different points over the last 2 decades.
I was in New York. Remember, we bumped into each other in New York, and I was very underweight.
Yep. Very underweight. I remember. And I remember, the community, man. There were points when, like, I think I said to somebody, I was like, Rudy's not in a good spot now. Yeah. And there's been times when I've been that guy, and there have been times when other guys have been that guy, right? And it kind of goes around. Everybody gets their turn for the most part. Yeah. If you're if you're out there, if people catch it, right? And some folks don't get caught by the community, and we've lost folks in that journey too. But man, you've been such a powerful role model, and especially in your candor and your powerful vulnerability. I'm always grateful for that, and I'm glad we got to talk about all these components. Let's talk about going from all that to that mind fuck, right? To a different mind fuck where you're in the Middle East on a massive Fox television show doing Special Forces World's Toughest Test. I mean, anybody who was watching football this year saw the ads and saw the
Yes.
probably saw there's Rudy again, still looking pretty as you were 20 years ago.
Thank you,
right?
brother.
And you're training, you had Mike Piazza and Anthony Scaramucci and Dwight Howard. And then, Carly Lloyd and Hannah Brown won the whole thing, right? And I think, if I were a betting person, I was like, I'm betting on Carly Lloyd because I'd watched her whole life. I said, maybe that's someone I'm betting on. But what are your reflections on that process? Because you're also deep in the emotion of all this, but also the entertainment component where we're trying to communicate those stories through entertainment, and you've been in all of that. So what are your thoughts now that show is wrapped up and you're moving into new projects?
Yeah, brother, I think I was so blessed to get the call. So Special Forces is built off a very successful UK show called SAS Who Dares Wins. So a few years before then, their chief instructor had some struggles in how he was conducting himself. So he was removed, and they called me. And I think it's because the mixture of warriorness, the empathy, and the understanding of how to convey emotion and story for media. And it was nothing short of a miracle. I have been with the SAS now for 3 years. I just got back doing 2 seasons in Vietnam, which was like my birthplace. My father, after fighting his 2 tours in Vietnam, because of what he could not deal with and what he carried with him home, he was never in my life. I never even knew him. He eventually died of heroin and set me on a trajectory of homelessness and being an orphan. Yet something inside I was still drawn to serving. I was still drawn to serving and getting back to Vietnam and going through these freaking mountains and through the jungles and beaches all over us and the 100% humidity at all times. It rained there for 8 days straight, brother. The whole place was flooded. Production, they were afraid of people getting electrocuted. So a Vietnamese assistant was bit by a cobra. I mean, this is freaking amazing, though. It was real. It was real when I was back full circle. And now I'm doing media and TV and the biggest shows in the world. And it's because as a young man, we were idealistic to sign a contract and give the oath that full circle, being honorable and humble in the grace of God, and that you're able-bodied to do something with it, can lead to dreams coming to life. I think that's a message our veterans and all people and young people need to know. That the more your character and your ethics and your humble nobility about doing what's right, as you create more of that in your life, it may be a hard life for a while. Why? Because your standard is so high. But full circle, oh my goodness gracious, the gifts that it gives back to you, the bounty you receive from doing the right thing, especially when no one's looking, and enduring some pain, misery, and suffering, and front loading some of that freaking humble courage to do it anyway, it will come back full circle, brother. So now we've gone to series. I can't tell you where we're going next. I'm doing the Recce in 2 weeks. It's been nothing short of amazing. I do SAS for the UK. I do Special Forces World's Toughest Test for America. I've got a new program coming out on History Channel in a couple of months. I can't tell you the name, but it's really badass. I guess you know how all the young people know me now is the video games. I play myself in the Call of Duty. I mean, wow, it's pretty wild, brother. Continue to be the very best person that you are inside. and carve out that character. And although the pain and struggles that come from being a beautiful person, they freaking carve you out. They carve you out, man. And you feel like one day there's going to be nothing left. But Khalil Gibran said, with the daggers of pain and suffering and love lost, all of the hollow they carve from you is the vessel in which you can hold the waters of love and life. Mm. And that's where I'm at now, brother. Mm. I've never been happier. I've never been more together. I've got my lovely Jade Struck. I have two beautiful children, 13 and 10 years old, and they're doing amazing. And now I'm finally in a space to be there for them. Career is going good. Health is going good. And service never stops, my man. Service never stops.
It's an inspiration, man. You're wearing, folks who are watching, you're wearing an Iron Man shirt.
Yeah, brother. I got my Marvel superheroes. As I hear you talk about this,
and my boys are obsessed with Iron Man, like, you'd make a great Iron Man. You know, maybe if Robert Downey Jr. is going to pass it over and they need someone else, that might be the next evolution for the Rudy Reyes origin story. But your origin
Marvel
story,
superheroes, here I am, brother.
Yeah.
You know my agency. I'm at APA. You guys can call me.
But also, man, you are so special that you were special no matter where your journey took you, whether it was Marine Corps or some other way. There's this special thing inside of you that's just blossomed and evolved over time. And all those empty vessels that are filled with that water now are like shooting all over the place and helping others. Let me ask you, you mentioned Jade Struck. The two of you look like superheroes. You're just this badass couple. Everybody should follow you both on social media and watch what you're doing. And can you tell folks briefly about Forest Blue, because this is the next chapter for you, an exciting chapter, something that I'm passionate about. I know my kids are excited to hear about, but tell people about Forest Blue.
Fantastic. ForestBlueTeam.org. We are a nonprofit, a veteran nonprofit that repurpose special operations combat divers to do ocean conservation of all sorts. We started with rebuilding reefs and treating reefs, then tagging turtles and rescuing turtles, getting them to hospital, and then hydrographic surveys and creating artificial reefs as hurricane detection points with sensors. Now we have a mammal program where we're teaching dolphins to help us in reef restoration. It's absolutely fantastic, brother. It started with when I was struggling out there in New York. Last time you saw me out there, I bumped into a buddy. And this is why art and life are so important. I bumped into a buddy that I worked with on a film. When I first got out of HBO, when I was doing HBO Generation Kill and such, when I first got into this business, I knew nothing. He noticed I wasn't doing so well. And he said, "Hey, I'm going to dive in the Caribbean. And you should come with us." I'm like, "Brother, I don't have a job right now. I don't think so." And I hadn't been diving except as a combat diver my whole career. And that's under immense stress, subsurface in the middle of the night with rebreathers, weapons, rockets, communications. And then when you get to the beach or to the cliff, you got to be prepared to fight right then and there. And it's immense. So he brought me there. He footed the bill, and being underwater and look at these gorgeous animals and societies, because a reef is a society, the hypertrophic cascade, and every being on that reef has a function, and they all are pursuing their very best to have babies and to eat and to protect babies, and they all by working together, even though there's competition, they keep the place healthy, and everybody is in balance. And this beautiful underwater society was in danger of being destroyed. Not just climate change, but shipping and also cruise liners. They bring in their anchor, and it destroys a lot of this gorgeous reef area because everybody wants to do tourism at these beautiful places. Right. So there had to be a balance, and I said, we've got to do something. If these are being torn apart, if these are dying, like we men and women that pick up a rifle and go fight for others that can't fight for themselves, I've got to fight for these these beautiful oceans. I got to fight for these beings. I got to fight for the innocence that I'm witnessing here. And I think it was stoking something deep inside about the children that I worked with in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's something about this innocence. I had to do something about it. So I brought Roger Sparks. All of these badass commandos. Roger was my recon mentor and now the highest decorated pararescueman of all time. Operation Bulldog Bite. He chopped the 82nd Airborne guys out of there. A pararescueman, amazing. I got British Royal Marine Commando. I got Will Hinkson, Recon Marine. I got some SEALs. I got some Green Berets. I got some CCT. And we built a program. Finest scientists in the world. This is what makes it so special. We have the NFL and Pepsi. We've got big business. We've got scientists who are warriors in their own right, who at first thought, who are all these freaking gorillas, face eaters on the boat? What do they care about these beautiful animals and creatures? These guys, are freaking warrior killers. And they found, and we got so close. We recognized we're all warriors fighting for goodness and to protect the innocent. We have become such a magnificent team. Science, veterans, corporate. Now we have worked on Capitol Hill. So with Voc Rehab, all veterans can take their Voc Rehab, get their diving certification up to advanced open water, and they can come to our missions and do on-the-job training with us and become Force Blue divers. And when you become a Force Blue divers, we fly you out, we equip you, we all do the hard work subsurface. You make your $350 a day, you get your per diems and billeting, and we work out every day and we talk trash every day too.
Dude,
we save the planet.
This is Iron Man's not enough. This is like the whole Avengers crew. And then like you're kind of Professor Xavier and you're building a school, but then also like you're maybe Iron Man's, maybe you're Aquaman, right? And we need you to be Aquaman. And this reef is kind of maybe, a better vision for America, like the synchronicity and the love and the leadership. And I wish you were president of the deep and president of America and made president of the world, because you're doing so much to be just sharing your enthusiasm and positivity and your lessons learned and your deep heart, man. You're overflowing with heart. And I'm so thankful to have you as a friend. And I'm thankful that you joined me on this show. Finally, I hope you'll come back. You're going to stick around for a couple extra fun questions for our Patreon members. If you're not a Patreon member, you want to be one now because you want extra Rudy. Yeah. Everybody wants extra Rudy. But my friend, you're a great human, and I love you so much, and I'm so excited to see you thriving, and I'm so grateful for how you continue to give back. You're really a role model and an example for everyone.
Thank you, brother. I love you, brother, and I'll be sticking around, my man.
Excellent. Stay vigilant, Rudy.
You got it, baby.
I mean, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day? None, or like 100?
Yeah, you know what? I only have one this morning, but I wake up fired up, ready to attack the day. I have so much to live for. And I wake up, Jade's already been to the range, and she's running her Henry rifle and her pistol draw, and I was on Rob O'Neill's podcast the other day, and at the end of the podcast, he said, "So how does it feel, Rudy, to be the second fastest shooter in your household?" I said, "Dog, you know what? I am accurate, but when you're 51, these eyeballs get a little tough to focus."
You sent me a picture. You sent me a picture of yourself over text, and without no shirt on. You're 51 years old. So I'm going to spare you sending me a picture of myself with no shirt on, but you continue to inspire us, and it's all contagious. It's all love. We love you so much. Rudy Reyes, stay vigilant, my friend.
Rah.